Hi everybody, and welcome to this video on how to fill out your statement and declaration of truth, your affidavit. Now, why is an affidavit important? It's because you don't have any standing in their system as the living man or woman. Their system is a system of paper and of fiction, and a living man and woman has no standing in that system until they put a document into that system that clearly defines that they are not the fictitious name. So this document is a foundation to your status within their system. In our system, our word is our bond. We do everything by what we say and a meeting of the minds. That's how a contract happens. Contract happens with a handshake. The documentation of everything is for the fiction system. So this document will give you standing in their system. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to go through this bit by bit, quite fast, but we're going to go through it and fill it out using the share and replace functions, etc. Don't worry about if it goes too fast for you, you can just rewind. But what you should have is the copy of a document called How to Fill Out Your Statement and Declaration of Truth. Okay, now there will be some differences in what we do with this, but this is just to give you additional help in how to get through this process. And you'll find here that we have this simple process here, which is an edit function, find and replace, and then you go through. Now we're going to do that over and over again until we get to the end of it, and then we'll deal with the next things after that. So let's get into the document itself. You should have it open on your laptop or on your computer. And here we have it. Everything that is in red, we're going to change. It's very important to know that whenever you've got quotation marks or single marks, that you leave them in there. They are very, very important. We're only going to change what's in red. And I'm going to make some adjustments to this as we go through, because I know some of you won't have certain information, and I'm going to explain it to you as we go through so you know what is happening. So let's get going. We're going to highlight this. Select a simple sole name. Now your sole name, understand that your soul doesn't actually have a name. It's just a vibrational energy. It's a consciousness. So we're going to give it an appellation. We're going to attribute a name to it, and that's covered in the document. Now, this name, I would suggest you make it as different to your name as possible so that there's no confusion between the two. So if your name is John Robert Smith, Smith is not part of your name. The surname has no legal standing. It's an optional thing. Same as your family name. It's just you're born of a family, or you're born of a tribe, or you're born of a house or a clan. It's not part of your name. Your name of your living being is a different thing, which we'll get to here. But we want to make your soul name something different. So if you were given the name John Robert by your mother, we don't want your soul name to be John. We want to make it something different. And I think make it something that reflects you. Make it a god name or a goddess name or something like that. So I'm going to put here simple soul name, and we've highlighted it, and then we go up to the edit function of your software. It'll be somewhere up in the menu. Click the edit tab. In fact, I might just show you how I'm going to do that briefly, and bring up my desktop here, and you'll see here that when I click on my statement, up in the top left-hand corner, I have a file called edit. And if I click on that and bring it down, you'll find something that says find and replace. So if I click find and replace, it brings up a little window. And that little window now, I'm going to go back and I'm going to highlight that, select a simple sole name, copy it. So command and copy, and I'm going to put it in there. All right. and then replace with. So what did I call? I'm going to call my soul name, the God name, Apollo. I'll type it in there, and then I click replace all. And it's replaced it one time. So I go, okay, good, thank you for that. We put it to one side. So let's now go back and work through the rest of the document, doing exactly the same thing. Now, you won't be able to see on my screen, on your screen now, the find and replace box, but it should still be there on your desktop. Don't close it because you're going to need it several times. So this has changed here. Now, the living being it incarnated into, this is your given names. So I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to copy it. Then when you go to your find and replace window, which I'll just show you briefly. Here we have it here. I'm going to put in here your given names, and you're going to replace them with exactly the names that were given to you at the time you were born, not what you've changed them to later or anything else. Now, remember, these names were verbally given. So, for instance, if your mother called you Karen, but then in the later documentation, it was misspelt to K-A-R-A-N, you put it in its original form. Okay, you would put K-A-R-E-N, because that's what your mother called you. So let's stick with John Robert Smith, and we're going to put John Robert, because those were names that were given to you by your mother or father, not the surname. They didn't name you the surname. That happened later. So we're going to replace all of those, and it's made 127 replacements. So that saved us a lot of time. Okay. And we'll go back to our process here with the affidavit. And again, you won't be able to see the find and replace window on your screen, but you will have it there to one side. Of the tribe, family, house, clan, we're not going to change those because we're leaving them as options. Remember, this is document for their system, not for us. Your father's family name. Now, if you want, you can use your mother's family name. You could put in Smith for your father, or you could put in Jones for your mother, or you could put in Smith-Jones, because you are of the Smith family, you are of the Jones family, and of course you are of the Smith and Jones families. You might even change this to of the tribe, family, house, Smith, and of the tribe, family, house, clan, Jones. Okay, it's your affidavit. You can change it to whatever you want. I'm going to keep it simple so it compares to the fictions that they have created, and I'm going to keep it as Smith. Okay, so it's much easier for me to make a differentiation between this living man and the fiction, John Robert Smith, than it is to have the complications of all the other names in there as well. So I'm going to keep it simple there. So I need to go back here where you are to have father's family name. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go to the find and replace window, put in father's family name, and replace it with Smith. So you'll do that either for the same for yours, and replace all. And you'll see it's changed it, and it changed it 130 times in the document. Okay. Now, believed to be and thus acting as the principal for the deceased estate at law. Now, this is the full name in capital letters of what they put on your birth certificate, or the birth certificate rather. So I'm going to copy that. We're going to go back to our find and replace, and I'll do that one for you. I'll show you. There's our find and replace window. And we're going to put in that copied part, okay? Your full name in capital letters. Replace it with, and in this case, it would be John Robert Smith, and click replace all. And it's made 14 changes to that, okay? So I'm going to go back to the document. And as you can see, if we scroll down a few times, it's going to be replacing some of those names. All right, it's already doing it. So let's move forward. Made the date known as. Now, if you're going to get this signed on the day you're going to print it out, you can put the day. Don't put numbers in. Numbers don't have meaning. We must have words. Made the date known as. Why is it the date known as? Because our calendar is a creation of their system. The only creatures on the planet that acknowledge a date are humans, man. And the calendar has been different for all different countries for a long time until we're getting to this common calendar. And who owns the common calendar and the dates? The Vatican. So we're not saying that this date is real. We're saying the date is known as. Okay, if we put the date such and such, we've put the document under their system. Now that sounds a little bit confusing to some, but the date, the calendar was created by the very system that we're opposing. So we don't acknowledge anything. We just say that it's known as the 30th day of the month of July. Now, if you're going to get it signed tomorrow and you know it's going to be signed tomorrow, put in the next date. Same with the month. If you're not sure, leave it blank. Okay, so what you would do is you would go that, and then you would just write in on the day it's going to do it. The same with the month, all right? So let's just go back. Let's say it's going to happen on the 22nd. So I'm going to copy that, go back to my find and replace, put it in the top part, type in 22nd and replace all, okay? And it will have changed it 2 times because it's doing it later on in the document. Same with the month. We're going to change it to the month that we're going to sign it in. So I just copy it. I put it into the find and replace top window. And then I replace it with May in this case, and it changes it. All right. Now down here, you're going to have to change this now. In the year of God Almighty, known as 2020, you can just do this direct change to, okay, 2022. Moving on. Purpose, in brackets, occupation. Occupation is a term of their system. That's why we put it in brackets, because we are not acknowledging that this is what it is. We're saying our purpose here. Now I've got galactic emissary in. You can change that to whatever you want. You might want to leave it as galactic emissary because that leaves you as with diplomatic immunity. If you want to leave it as that, just remove those. Okay, if you want to change it, you can just remove those. Let's say galactic ambassador, or you might have galactic explorer. Whatever you want to do, it's your affidavit, but keep it in this realm because that gives you diplomatic immunity. All right, whichever you want. I'm just going to go back to galactic emissary. Current place address, because they always want to nail you down to somewhere. So you're going to say, okay, and I've taken this to court and the judge has had to accept it when I said planet known as Earth. And he said, well, technically you've fulfilled it. Absolutely, we have fulfilled it. You don't want to give them a residence, because if you are a resident, you come under their system. And if you put in you'll see here I've got contact address. It's not my address, it's a place I can be contacted. Care of. Okay, so I'm not coming on a residential address. Street number and name. Okay, well, that's pretty easy. We just put down where we can be contacted at. 14 Smith Street. Now here, you'll see the town known as, because where you live is not real, it's a fiction. It's a town known as Jonestown, that'll live, whatever. So whatever your suburb is, you're going to put it down there. And it's in quotation marks because we have no proof that that's what it is, because it's just what somebody called it earlier in the past, okay? On the land known as Terra Australis, which is what this land is known as before the white man came here and brought all of their corporations, et cetera, all right? So that's for this state. That's where you are in this land, the land of Terra Australis. Now here in square brackets is the state. Now this could be Queensland, Victoria. All of these states are fictions. Okay, I'm just going to put in Victoria. You can put in Queensland, you can put everyone. The square brackets are a thing called the four corners rule. Anything that is enclosed within the four corners is not part of the document. Very important to remember. So if you get a document that has a border around the page or text in a box, anything that's in the box comes under the four corners rule and is not part of the document. Why is this important? It means that I'm not acknowledging that Victoria is real, because I know it's a creation, it's a fiction. Similarly with the postcode, 3888, whatever it is for your postcode. A postcode is a military code. So we're only putting these in for their benefit, but it doesn't form part of our affidavit. We are not validating it, right? Notice to principal is notice to agent. Notice to agent is notice to principal. Very, very important. It means that when you serve this affidavit on any member of a corporation, it is served on all members of the corporation. So if once you hand this to one policeman, every single policeman has been served with a copy of this document. Very, very important. Then we give a little clarity here. The affidavit is given in order to establish, signify, proclaim, and verify the status of this living being in their system, not in our system, and to eliminate, deny any and all presumptions by any and all fictions, corporate or private entities. Okay, so we're going to be rebutting any presumptions that a court may make that we are coming under their rules, and to rebut any and all alleged claimed authority and or jurisdiction of any of these entities over the deponent, that's the person that, the living man or woman who's making this affidavit, those entities being without standing upon the land. None of these corporate entities have standing upon the land, which is where we are. All righty, so let's get into it. All of this preamble stuff, I suggest you read it and understand it, because what it's clearly saying is that we are not of this realm. We have no name or need for a name as a soul. We're vibrational energy, and we are only answerable to our creator. Whatever you want to call it, it can be Allah, Krishna, God, whatever you want to call it, you are only answerable to your creator. And the soul was not born, and it never was born. It always has been and always existed since the creator created it. Now, why is that important? Because it all relates to the birth certificate. We are drawing a distinction between the fact that our soul is not part of the birth certificate created by the state. So this is much higher stuff going on. And all of those things are clarifications of that for the purpose of them to understand that we are not being tricked. Okay, so then we get our soul made a choice to incarnate in the form of man with a mother being. All right, mothers given names. So this is your mother's first and second names, not your mother's family name. Okay, so we're going to copy that. We're going to go to our find and replace box, and we're going to put it in the top. So we've got in the top of the find and replace box, mothers given names. All right, I'm going to put in Ruby Joy. It's my mother's given names. Whatever your mothers are, you put them in and hit replace all. And you're going to make 2 changes. So then we're going to go back and we're going to go mother's maiden name. Okay, so what was your grandmother on your mother's side, her maiden name, not her married name, because she was of that family. So if you don't know it, simply put in not known. Okay, born of the tribe, family, house, clan, not known. But it's not going to be hard to find out. And she was born of your mother's maiden name. Okay, you're going to put that in the, let's say it was Brown. I'm going to replace that with the father being, now what's here? I'm just going to double check this in a minute, always going back and double check it. So born of the South Brown, and the family house clan name, now Mother Smith was probably Smith. And just correct that. Or it could have been White. So we'll put White in there, because that's your grandfather on your mother's side. With the father being, all right, let's go back here. I'm going to copy that, paste it into the top box of the find and replace, fathers given names. Well, he was Fred, Edward, Robert. He had 3. He was lucky. Fred, Edward, Robert. We replaced that. And he was born of the father's mother's maiden name. What was the father's mother's maiden name? Okay, so this is your grandmother on your father's side. All right, and we're only going to be doing this once, so we're going to highlight that and just type in green, or whatever your grandfather's name was. Now it's likely, it's probably likely that that is Smith. Okay, it's probably going to be the same. And we're born of the parent and the tribe. Oh no, this is your father's mother, your grandmother on your father's side. She's probably, what do we say? Grandmother on your father's side. Let's give her another color, black. All right, so you should have your grandparents. There should be 4 separate family names, unless they're inbred. Who knows? And the 5 term, and now we have Smith. Here, we'll just take that out there. All righty, so just go over that. You should have 4 different family names for grandparents. If you don't, just simply put in not known. Let's say that we don't know who this was. We're going to put born of, and the family Smith, hereafter called the parents. Now you see how I've put this here in those quotation marks, because the parents is under their system. It's under the fiction system. If we say the parents without this, we've just called all of these living men and women fictions. The pair rents. Okay, think of it this way. This is part of the way that they trick you. The pair rents the child from the state. That's when they call them parents. If you acknowledge to being a parent, you are renting a child, which is again a fiction created by them, rather than owning your own biological offspring. Okay, just trying to educate you a little bit as we go along. Both of which have or have had physical standing upon the land, very important, at the time of the conception of our living being. Okay, just making it all really clear. Moving forward, read through the next parts and understand them. We rebut all presumed consent, tacit acquiescence, and assumed compliance with all lesser authorities that are earth-based and or merely human, and or of human construct. Okay, read through these and get your head around them. It's really important that you know who you are. Okay, the living fetus which we incarnated was born as a living being on the date, this is important here, born as a living being on the date known as. So you're going to put your, excuse me for using it, birth date down in words. And this day was, let's say, the 20-6th day of October, the year of God Almighty, known as, and you're going to put your birth year in, known as 1900 and whatever it is. Let's say it's 73. On the land known as. Now here, the oldest known name of the land of the place of your being, that should be being born, but we're going to change it anyway. Now, if you're born on this land, that would be Terra Australis. If you were born, for instance, somewhere in the UK, it would be the land known as the land of the Angles. Now, if you're not sure, if you're born in Africa, or I think it's Albicans, go and do a Google search to find out the earliest name of whatever the land is and use that. You don't want to use Australia, for instance, because Australia is a fiction that brings you under their system. Australia, of course, being on Norfolk Island, because when they landed here, they claimed it was terra nullius. That wasn't correct. There were living forms here, our First Nations people. So they landed on Norfolk Island, which was terra nullius, and they offered an administration of Australia, of the land from Australia, which is on Norfolk Island. So most of you will put in Terra Australis. The living being in which we are now incarnated is born of a co-creation of both the Trice family. Now, your mother's maiden family name. Okay, your mother's maiden family name, which if we went up here was probably either brown or white. It'll be either brown or white from here, okay? So let's say it's white. Where are we? Mother's maiden name, white. And the tribe, family, house, clan, Smith, which would be your father, all right? The living being we're now incarnated is a national of the land known as Terra Australis. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're born overseas or not, you are now considering yourself to be a national of the land known as Terra Australis. You can make that claim. Doesn't matter what your citizenship is or your residential status, because we're going to rebut all of those. We are not a citizen. Okay, and we are not a non-alien. So we're not an alien to this land. Okay. The living being which are now incarnate is neither an alien of Terra Australis. That's because you are here. You're claiming that you belong to this land. Nor are you a citizen of Terra Australis, nor any other fictitious country. All countries are fictions. Okay. We're not an alien of the land we're on, and we're not a citizen of this land, nor any other fiction means we're not a citizen of the United States. We're not a citizen of Australia. We are not subject to anything. Why not? Because we are only answerable to our Creator. The minute you call yourself a citizen, you are a fiction and you are a subject of the corporation. Okay, the mother and father of the live-born spring. We could change this, and I think we're going to. The biological creators of the live-born offspring of the mother gave the living being in which we are now incarnated the appellation John Robert. This is your first two names. It's already been changed. We don't have to go through it. I'm just explaining. The appellation of the live-born being, as given above in 23, is based upon the appellation given to the live-born child by the living mother into the tribe, family, house, clan, or the clan known in this case as, now, just take out that bracket, Smith. This live-born being into which we are now incarnate is not in any way to be confused as being the statutory created fiction or any estates with the name. Now we're going to make some corrections here. Take out the bracket, put in a quote mark, and the same at the other end. Why are we put them in quote marks? Because that's what they call it. All righty, that's what they call it, not what we call it. This is a fiction, so quote it. The living being into which we are now incarnated, so named John Robert of the family Smith. Now, these are all the changes we've made earlier. So just go through and double check that they are right. Don't concern yourself too much with this Latin down here. It's good for you to know what they mean and that we are making this as a statement that what is illegal ought not to be entered under the pretext of legality. What we're telling them is that this, what you created here, which was legal, is separate to this. Okay, and if they try to do anything other than that by saying that you, the living man or woman, are the fiction, then they are acting illegally, and it will not be entered into under the pretext of legality. And it's malicious for them to do that, and they must be thwarted. So we're holding them accountable by their own rules. Always good to know these little phrases of Latin, or know that they exist, or know where to find them so you can quote them. Okay, the soul. Now let's just replace this one. Somehow it slipped through the root. We're going to copy it. Go back to our find and replace. Put that in the top window, and underneath we're going to put in your soul name again and replace all. And this time it's changed it 113 times. Righty, good. So just going through and we're double checking that the right names have been put in all of this next section, which they should be. And so you should simply be able to see when something is not quite right. Like, for instance, I need to take a bracket out there. Okay, so if I keep moving down, all of those are already changed for you. 34, at paragraph 34, if I, the living woman known as, no, that needs to be changed to man. So I can do it two ways. I could copy this, put it into my find and replace, and change it to man, but there might be woman somewhere else in it. So what I'm simply going to do is just remove that. If I am a man filling out this, if I'm a woman, I will leave this as it is. Okay, but here, I am literate in English, French, German, and I am not illiterate. Put all of the languages that you are literate in. Might be Italian, might be Chinese. You list all of the languages that you are literate in, okay? And I am not illiterate. This is the most important part, that you're not illiterate, but you also have to qualify, well, what are you literate in? And one of the things you are literate in is English, okay? I, the living man known as John Robert of Smith, am conscious, aware, knowledgeable, and cognizant, and am not ignorant. You have to make a statement that you are not ignorant, or else they will presume you are ignorant, and therefore you have no capacity. That's why we have these four, because we are basically, we're blindsiding them. I am sane, sensible, intelligent, reasonable, rational, logical, and sapient, and not a lunatic. Now, they can hold people by claiming they're a lunatic because you believe in common law. Oh, you're not of sane mind. All we have to do is produce this document and say, I'm sorry, you had a chance to claim that I was a lunatic and not of sane mind, and you didn't do it. So I am sane, sensible, and that is now the contract that stands. Okay, so we are preempting what sort of crap that they will put on us. I am financially self-sufficient and not a pauper. If you don't have $2 in your pocket, you can be arrested for vagrancy. If you look at your passport number will have a P at the beginning of it. That's them declaring you a pauper, i.e. a chattel, something to be traded of no value. So it's important that we have this in, that your living soul, your living man, woman, is not a pauper. And make a habit of always carrying around at least $2 in coins on you, because paper money is not real money, only coins are. All right, moving forward. That's all correct. That's correct. Good. Read through this and just understand how long they have been committing this fraud. 1529 AD, over 1500 years that they've been perpetuating this fraud. So we're going to rebut it right back at the very beginning. Same thing here. This is a really important one, the Unum Sanctum. If you don't know about it, plug it into Google and read up about it, because this is the most evil document ever created, and it stands. The Pope claimed every soul on the planet for the church. That's why this document is from the soul, saying, I rebut you claiming to own me because only my creator does it. It's the most important thing to rebut, that my soul is not owned by the church, because under their system, the way they operate, if you don't deny it, you accept it. So anyone who has not renounced the Unum Sanctum, their soul is owned by the Catholic Church. Okay, very important. Moving forward. Okay, we rebut all of their claims. We give no authority to the Vatican or any derivative organization subservient to or controlled by the Vatican. That means every single corporation on the planet, because corporations were created by the Roman state, which the Roman state was controlled by the Vatican. Okay. We renounce, rebut, disassociate, and reject all claimed authority of any and all legislation, the See of Rome, admiralty law, maritime law, Roman law, corporate law, and the rule of law. Interesting, we rebut the claim of authority of the rule of law, because who created it? Vatican. All right. Checking that all of these are correct, read up about the Setake v. Trust. When you were born, you were connected to your placenta. And while you were in the womb, you were the beneficiary through the placenta of all of the things given to you by your mother, through the blood, through the placental wall, and through the umbilical cord into you. Your placenta and your body are the same DNA. So when you were born and they severed your umbilical cord, they severed a property. And once a property has been severed, it automatically creates a trust. Okay, just understand the way they work. The placenta was then abandoned by the mother. The state salvaged the placenta, and they then took ownership of the trust for that part of the DNA. This is how they create what they do lawfully. Right? So we're saying, no, we're not buying into that. Established through with a date of birth. See, this is the fiction. That's the trust account they created through the severance of your DNA and your placenta being abandoned. And they gave it a name. And they tacked on this surname. Surnames are optional. Established through and with the date of birth, they claimed a date of birth for it. And that would be the date that you know as when you were born. So you can change that accordingly. And I think it's already been changed. No, it hasn't. So you change that to what your date of birth is, whatever we put before. 7th, what was it, October? You'll change both of those and you'll change the year. You can just make the changes as you go through. I think it was the 22nd. Month of October in the year known as 1900 and I think we had 73. I can't remember. But this will just be your dates. And you'll notice that I'm always putting the hyphen between these. 22nd, 20,000, because there's a continuous aspect. All right. And it also ties it back into the ancient Latin. The registration of the birth. Now, if you put that without the commas in, the brackets in, or whatever, you're validating that it was a birth. No. It's what they claim as a birth. In the year 1973, which is the year you're born, of the physical being, by the, again, in quote marks, the mother and father. If you want to, you can change that to creators. Biological creators is much stronger than mother and father. And if you're going to use biological creators, take out the quote marks. It's up to you what you want to do. You can leave it that way, or you can leave it that way. It's up to you. With the then, now this is what, wherever you were born and your birth was registered, whatever the name of it was, Department of Births, Deaths and Marriages is usually what they're called. If it's slightly different, just make the adjustment. So you're just going to do a little bit of research to find out what is the department, what was the department called at that time. Of the state, now remember, a state is a fiction. And let's say you were born in Queensland, or we've put before earlier, but I'm just going to put something different. Queensland. Again, it's in quotation marks because we're not acknowledging that it exists. We're just quoting them. the then state of Queensland. So now down here, I'm going to highlight that one and I'm going to my find and replace, and I'm going to post it into the top window. So I'll have your state in the top window, and I'm going to replace that with Queensland and replace all, and it automatically changes it. Okay, moving along. And you'll see how it's now changed all of these. If you've made the change before of the mother and father, it might be easier for you to just leave it. But if you feel okay to change it, highlight the whole thing, this time including the brackets. I know I said earlier to leave them, but because we're bringing it back into our realm, I'm going to put that in the find and replace top window, and we're going to replace it with biological creators. Why is biological creators more powerful? Quite simply because when you put biological, you're talking about living matter, and creator gives you automatic ownership when you do it. Mother and father are sort of generic terms. That's why we've got them in the brackets. So I've changed that one to biological creators for you. Checking through all of these, we're just making sure they're correct. They are. If you've got a different name to that, highlight it, put it into the find and replace window, replace it with the correct one as you know it, and then replace all, and that should change it. So let's say it's the Department of well, we're going to make it simple. Births, comma, deaths and marriages. Maybe that's the way it's listed. Okay, so we're going to copy that, go to our find and replace window, paste it in there, and then down with the replace it with, paste it in there as well, and then just put the comma in and replace all. Now I'm just going to show you that one so that we know exactly what's going on. Little tie back in here. So you can see up the top here, I've posted that in the top. I've posted it in the bottom, and now I'm going to put the comma in here, replace all, and it's changed it 3 times. Okay. Let's pop back to our document and keep working through it. Remember, if you're having any problem with this, just rewind and go back over it until you get what's going on. Don't feel pressured that you have to rush through this. Queensland's been changed. All of these have been changed. That's great. Our sole name's been changed. Oh, I need to take, in this case, because it's for a male, I'm taking the woman out, and there was a space in there. I got rid of that as well. Okay, the rest looks good. Now, here's some information for you about the surname. At common law, an adult may assume any surname by using such name and becoming known by it, for the use of a surname is a convention rather than a legal necessity. The surname is never formally bestowed on a person, but acquired by the living man or woman by reputation. So if there were 10 Johns born in the village, which John are we talking about? Oh, the John of the family Smith. Oh, okay. By reputation, he's known that he's of that family. And as such, at common law, an adult may assume any surname by using such name and becoming known by it, if the surname not being a matter of law, but a matter of repute. Really important. And then we actually give them a legal statement of that. Right. So don't worry, that's just for your information and to let them know we know the game and we're not playing. So we check these. Apollo, yes. John Robert Smith, yes. Apollo, yes, yes. Birth certificate, that's what they call it. So we're putting there in quote marks. We renounce, rebut, and disassociate ourselves completely with being the said birth certificate. We can't be a fiction. This is how they try to trap us in. Created without our consent by the state and using the name John Robert Smith, which we believe is a glossa, a criminal corruption of the living being's proper name. So we're putting it right here in front of them saying, no, 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 no. You can rebut this if you want. You can challenge my affidavit, but you have to prove that this fiction is the living man, because I'm making a statement in your system that it's not. Okay, good. Now we go on. Now we checked all of these, they're right, with any and all created fictions, because we know they create at least 3 trust accounts. John Robert Smith, this next one, and I'm going to highlight it, copy it. I'm going to go to my, again, I'm going to go to my find and replace so that you can see what we're doing here. I put it into the top window. You can see what it's got. Given name, middle initial, family in capital letters. Okay, well, that is John R. Smith. I'm going to replace all, and it's replaced that 6 times. So what's the effect of that when we go back to our screen? John Robert Smith we had, nor John R. Smith, because you're going to get some bills or whatever to John R. Smith. You might even get John Smith. So we'll just copy that one as well. Okay, John Robert Smith, John R. Smith, nor John Smith. And we're going to add another one in here. So what we're going to do, we're going to copy this, just copy it, and then just paste it straight after it. Because what we're going to put in is change it to Smith, John Robert. But what we might do, let's just do that. Smith, John Robert, because this is often the way they will put you in a legal matter. So just add that in. Now, just to make things easy for yourself, when you've got that, just pause this if you need a bit more time. We're now going to copy the previous one. All right, just added that there. Copy that and the one we added, right? So we've got nor John Smith estate, nor John Smith estate, right? And what we're going to do, let's see if I can get this done right. Copy the nor John Smith first, go to your find and replace and put it in the top window. Come back to copy that and the next one that we've just put in, because now we're going to update the whole document by putting that in the bottom window and then click replace all. No, it only made one change. So let's just read through it again. Oh, sorry, I'm giving you a bum steer there. Don't do that change, leave it as we just did. Okay, so it should read as John R. Smith, John Smith, nor Smith, John Robert. So Okay, if you've got a bit confused by me, then don't worry about that. Just go back and work through it so that these first three names are correct. John Robert Smith, John R. Smith, John Smith. And then all we did was added in the reverse, Smith, John Robert. Okay, good. I'm going to keep scrolling through, checking that all of these names are right. Okay, now what we might do, we're going to copy that because we're now going to put it in here. Okay, we're adding to the number of documents that we're going to do. All the rest look fine. Is there a space in there? I think there is. Yep. Rest looks good. Some more information we're telling them. Read through these and understand them. A fiction created by a fiction, so a birth certificate created by a state or by any other living man or woman, does not have standing upon the land. Fictions only exist on paper. Fiction created by a fiction cannot speak. Fiction created by a fiction does not have jurisdiction over the living. And you are a living man or woman. So a fiction cannot have jurisdiction over you unless you consent to it, of course. So read through all of those things about a fiction and know what's going on. So we keep moving through. Really important you read these to start to get in your mind how it all works. Because everything that we are saying here is to rebut a presumption that they might make. Once this has been finished and sent off, 28 days after that, it becomes the contract, the law between you and whoever you send it to that's mentioned in here. They can't then turn around and say, oh, we have authority over you. Say, no, you had a chance to challenge it way back when I filed this to you and you didn't. So it's now the law. You've agreed to it. That's how we understand their system. And we give them a little bit here about human rights. Now, this is not for our benefit. It's for them, because you never, ever want to declare yourself as a human. A human is a hue of man, a shade of man, and you will find definitions where a human has no rights to inherit property and a human is considered to be a sub-animal or a monster. So you never want to say you are a human, ever. It's in here to say that they hold this, and because you are a higher being than a human, then you at least have these rights. Okay, good. Moving on. Looking good. We're going to click in here and add that extra one in. And a space there. Same thing down here. I'm going to add it in there as well, so that there is no confusions that we are anything other than the living man or woman that we say we are. So moving down to number 70, I'm going to add it in again and the space. All of the others are in there. Again, read through them. You'll start to understand why we're doing them the way we're doing it. We're negating any possible loopholes or claims that they may have to say, sorry, we have claim over you. We rebut the corporate entity, Australian government. They have no authority. They're a fiction. Okay, go through those and you'll see. We rebut the Commonwealth of Australia. There are people out there trying to reinstigate the Commonwealth of Australia and the Constitution. The Constitution is not viable. It doesn't exist. It's got no legal standing on this land because the First Nations people are the only lawmakers of the land here. This is a corporation owned by the Vatican. So all the people who are fighting for the Constitution, to bring back the old Constitution and bring back the Commonwealth of Australia, they're trying to go from one prison cell to another prison cell in the same prison controlled by the Vatican. So nope, we're rebutting all of that. Commonwealth of Australia. Now we're going to also list a whole lot of other corporations that we rebut, renounce, disassociate, and reject, that all corporate entities masquerading as or purporting to be a government, we're rebutting them all. Okay, where we get to? Here we are. Including but not limited to. If you just put including, then only these ones are covered. By putting but not limited to, it means I can add any others to this at any time I want. State of Victoria, Parliament, all the state governments, they're all in there. All right. Same thing with the next one. They're all listed. And we also always list their ABN number because that's proof that they're a business. And they're always in capital letters as they are listed on ATSIC. And or all of its trading names. Because these, for instance, the Department of Justice in Victoria, whatever they call themselves, Department of Justice and Safety, has a number of trading names, including Magistrates Court, County Court, all these courts, we're rebutting their claims of authority. Okay, we're totally setting you free. Now, this one you'll need to change if it's not Victoria. You can leave it in, but you might want to add another paragraph for South Australian government. But this is a specific thing, right? I've put up here all governments. This is all covered, State of Victoria, Parliament of Victoria. I've already covered it, but because I'm specifically in Victoria and you might be in another state, you can specifically pick out that state to say, no, just in case you didn't get it the first time, I'm specifically saying that the Victorian government, which is registered as an organisation of the type non-C, non-ret, don't worry about changing that. You can leave that as it is. And you can change it to whatever the name of the government is. All right, so moving forward. Here it is. Now I'm being specific again to the state of Victoria, the Department of Justice and Community Safety, which is a Victorian-based entity. Okay, it's a corporate entity registered under ATSIC because it's got an ABN number, but I'm specifically saying that has no authority or jurisdiction. Now you might pick it from your state from up here. Department of Justice, all of these ones, whichever is the state for you, Department of Justice, you're going to pick it out and you're going to put it in down here. Don't change it if you're in Victoria. Only change it if these departments are not in your state, replace them with the ones that are. Okay, so that's just a little bit of search and change for you. So you might want to pause this while you make all of those changes. Next thing we go on to is local government. All corporate local government. So if they call themselves a local government as defined by the Local Government Act, and remember back in 1999 in a referendum, we rejected giving them any authority. So how did they get authority? They did it in the middle of the night when they took over from the local community body corporates, which was, let's call it Baw Shire Council in lowercase letters. And overnight, it swapped to Baw Shire Council in capital letters, which people did not realise that a corporation had just overtaken the rights of the people. Okay, and this is where you can start to change things. So all government so-called government entities are rejected, corporations. Keep going through. We reject all of the police forces because they are forces, policy enforcers for the corporations. See, law exists outside of these guys. If they are acting as a constable, then they're working for the people. The minute they become a police officer, they become an enforcer of the policies of these corporations. It's different video. But we're rejecting all the ones for Victoria because this is the state that this one's made in. You can replace that with your state, or you can add in extra paragraphs if, say, you live near the border of New South Wales and Queensland. You could put both the Queensland one and the Victorian one in, Queensland and New South Wales one in. If you live in Albury-Wodonga, you could put the police one for Victoria and New South Wales in here. It's your affidavit. You can make whatever changes you want to it. Just stick to the format, sorry. Roads Corporation. See, we've rebutted all of the roads corporations in all of the states and territories. So that means that they have no claim over you unless you are running a business. Okay, you're running a business and you're transporting goods or fares, then you have to get a business license and your car has to be registered as a vehicle for business reasons. Separate issue, but you as a living man or woman are entitled to free travel on the land. They can't even register your car to you as a living man or woman. They're not allowed to. They can't do it. If you go and ask them to, they'll say, we can't do it, and they're not allowed to. Okay. Roads Corporation. Here we go. We reject the Vatican again. All of our names have been changed through here. Again, read all of these. They're really good for you to know. You don't consent to the projection or use of any type of electromagnetic pulses, beams or frequency waves. Now, this includes 5G, but it also includes radio, television, anything you want to do that is known to be or suspected to be detrimental to the human body. So if they're putting 5G towers up in your local community, once you've sent this to your local council, your affidavit, they can't broadcast because it does until they can prove that it doesn't do any damage. Okay. Go through, read them all. Genetically modifying food. We know they're doing it. We're telling them, nope, nope, can't do it. Aerosol sprays, that's chemtrails. Okay, if they don't rebut this affidavit, they can't fly chemtrails lawfully over your land. They can do it over your neighbour, but they can't do it over you. Well, they can't confine it. So how can they do it? Biometrics, facial recognitions, all of these things. Read through this and understand the power of what this affidavit does. And if everybody did one of these, how much we would have control back of what we do. Now, presumptions of law, we're going to rebut all the presumptions of law. Read through these and understand them, because this is how courts, their criminal corporate trading entities operate. They operate on presumptions of this. So if you do this affidavit, you file it on the courts, then when you go in there, you can quote this and say, sorry, I don't stand for any presumptions of law. I refer you to paragraph 95, 96, 97, etc., where I don't do this. So you have to now step aside as a judge or a magistrate, and you can only sit there as a trustee of the account. Okay. This is your safety net before you get caught up in any of their stuff. So just check that all the names are right, which they are. Don't worry about the font and colours and that. We're going to fix all of that in a minute. Going through and checking that it's all filled out correctly. As I said, take the time and read this. Much easier when you get your head around this to go, I know where I stand. I know what my rights are. Okay, all looking pretty good. We're just scanning through to see if there are any mistakes or something that's been missed. It doesn't look like there is. So all of our copy and paste has done. Good. Now, section 124. Any and all courts are dismissed from assuming the role of trustee in any matters involving or concerning the seed of my loins, stroke womb. If you're a woman, you're going to take out loins, going to delete that. If you're a man, you're going to take out / womb. Let's say it's mine, so I'm going to take out the womb. And just to make it sure, I'm going to add in the biological creations, comma. So I'm really nailing it here. Any matters involving or concerning the seed of my loins, the biological creations, the living offspring. Now, these are your children. However many you have, if you don't have any, you can put future. You can, if you, let's say you haven't got any children at the moment, but you're planning you might have, you can just take out all of this from there. You don't have to put the names in. The living offspring which come under my jurisdiction. And that will cover you for any future kids that you may have. Just take out that part and leave that. If you've got them, you use the same principles that you have for others. Let's say you've got 3 children. Well, you're going to copy that. And you're going to paste it in there, and you're going to change it with the details of the 3rd child. If you've got a child and you named him Thomas Benjamin, and his trust accounts are going to be the surname, all those 3 variations that we mentioned before. And you do the same thing if you've got a daughter. So feel free to change those for your offspring. If you don't have offspring, but you may have them, take out that whole chunk. And it reads that you're dismissed from assuming the role of trustee in any matters involving or concerning the seed of my loins, of my womb, the biological creations, the living offspring which come under my jurisdiction. That will cover anyone for the future. All righty. Moving on. Read through them, understand them. Checking all of these things are correct. Yep, they've all go through correct. And we put in there specifically reserve and retain all rights and privileges granted to our living being by the higher galactic and universal councils. You might think, oh, that's a bit crazy, you know. Well, if they exist, which they do, they would have to, anyone who wants to challenge this would have to, number one, prove that higher galactic councils exist, and then that they don't give you any rights. Well, they're stuck both ways. So they're not going to touch this at all. But if they don't touch it, they've agreed to it. Simple as that. You are a galactic emissary and you claim full diplomatic immunity under what they call the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. So if they don't challenge that you're a galactic entity, they can't challenge that you don't have diplomacy. They've got no proof. They have to come up with concrete proof. They can't just say, well, you're a maniac, you're an idiot, because you've already put a phrase in that you're not a lunatic. So they'd have to challenge that, which means they would have to have a medical examination proving that you are. And they haven't. It's very, very well crafted, this. Okay, looks like everything's right there. Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go up to the end of 133, click in there, and hit the delete button going forward to join the paragraph that follows, and then click return. So we're adding another number in there. Okay, I'm just going to go through that again for you. it was just as a paragraph like this. We are going to, you can click it this way, click delete. It joins it all up, then hit return, and it adds another number in. All right, the rest of it looks good. We autograph and or stamp ascribed upon this document of this date known as. Now, this is the date that you're going to get it witnessed. If you're not sure, highlight that and leave it blank so that you can write it in. 2022, this should be. So we're going to change those parts, 2022. If you know what the date is going to be that you're going to get it signed, going to get it witnessed, you can type it in there. Now, here's the next thing. You're going to have to remember this. Your sole signature, Apollo, you sign in purple ink. Okay. Not your name, the name Apollo in purple. That's going to be witnessed by a JP, whatever. Don't go to the trouble at this stage of signing this in red unless you know the JP is going to be okay with that. Because if you sign this in red, the JP may not witness it because say, oh, you can't sign in red, because they've been conditioned to believe that you have to sign in blue or black. Now, blue ink is corporation, so it's fiction. Black ink is the dead. It's the realm of the dead, so you don't put it in black. Purple means that you are sovereign. You are a king or queen of your kingdom. And red ink is the ink of blood of the living. So this is the name of your living self, your living body given to you by your mother when you were born. John Robert. Okay. So what you do, you blank these sections out. And the fingerprint or blood sample, you blank those out and your document is nearly ready. You just have to remember, you're going to autograph it here in purple as Apollo, and then after it's been witnessed, you're going to autograph it as the living man or woman in red. And then you're going to get a red pad and you're going to get your thumbprint and you're going to put your thumbprint here. Can do it in blood if you want, but a red ink is fine. All right, so we're nearly ready to go through this. You can see here it says 28 of 29. We're going to change that to 28. So there's 28 of 28. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is get this ready for printing. So the first thing I want to do is I'm just going to scan through and check that all of these numbers and all the format is correct. So I'm scanning down, just following it through, that all of these numbers all line up and everything's fine. Okay, now before I do that, go up to, let me just check. I'm formatting the page here. Yeah, all right. Now, you're going to go to the format of the page of the document. If you've got a more recent copy of this, this may already have been done, but you're going to go to format and you're going to go to page and it will open up a window. Let me just do this for you. And here we go. Okay, your page style. This is just a simple formatting one. And you'll see here, the page width is 8.27, 11.69. This is A4 paper. Now, we don't want this original document on A4 paper because this is legal paper. This is their realm. So we're actually going to change this to 7.87 by 13. This is foolscap paper. And we're going to increase the top margin to 90 and the bottom margin to 90. That will give us a little bit more space at the top and at the bottom so that when we scan this document, it will scan onto A4. Okay, we hit apply. And let's go back and have a little look here. And it's changed the documents, the paper size. Alrighty, now, for future reference, create a flag. Doesn't take long, takes 5-10 minutes to create your own flag. It can be anything that you want, and you're going to put that image in the top left-hand corner, because that means everything that comes here comes under the jurisdiction of your kingdom. If you're not sure about that, you can ask around, but basically you're going to create your own flag. You can use a coat of arms. You can use the Eureka as a background. You can do any color you want. It's your flag. And it goes in here. And every document that you produce from then on will be under the jurisdiction of your flag. Do you know what a white flag means? A white flag means you don't stand under anything. Okay? You don't stand under anything. So you don't want to be standing under their flag. You want to be under your own jurisdiction. So we've done all this. We're going to go through and check all the numbering. It's all looking good so far. Yeah, scanning through. You can scan your own. Now remember, you can pause this document at any time you want to do this process. Scanning through. Oh, now what have I found here? Look at number 40 to 41. The 41 has moved in. We're going to tidy this up. We're going to go to the top and take it across there. We want everything to be absolutely perfectly in place so they can't challenge it. Keep going down, 44, 45. We don't, oh, here's another one at 49. See, we don't want to give them any excuse to say, oh, the document's not correct. So we're just making sure. There's another one at 53. We just move the margin out. 54, 55 is good. Oh, now what's happened here? Let's have a little look there. Look at this. This is default style basketball 12. Oh, this is Times New Roman. Now we want them all. We'd never want to use Times New Roman because that's their font. They have a copyright over Times New Roman. Hello, Vatican. And over 12 font. All right, so we're going to fix all of this in one go. We're going to select A, which means we're selecting everything. Then we're going up to here and we're going to type in a different font. Now you can use whatever font you want, but I use Baskerville. Okay, and I click that and it changes all the font in the document to Baskerville. And my font size 11.5. Not 12. And if you do it at 12 or bigger, 12.5 or bigger, well, you're going to take up more paper. So we don't want to do that. Do it at 11.5 and just makes it a little bit harder for them to read, but they can still read it. And you'll notice we've reduced it from 27 pages, from 28 pages to 27 pages. So change that down in the footer. Okay. So let's go back to where we were checking that everything was lined up. I think we're about 54, 54, 55, and we've fixed all of that formatting problem. Okay, all nice and even, all the same. 58, 59, 63, 64, 65. It's looking good. Oh, there's one at 67. That's easy. We're just going to take the margin out. There's another one at 68. Take the margin out. There's one at 69. It's like you're creating a work of art in many ways. And you are, because you are creating your freedom. 71, 72 is good. 73, 74, 75. Okay, we're nearly there. Oh, look at that one snuck in. Is it 67? Yeah, 77. We're going to just adjust that out. Okay, now we're at 77. What we're going to do is we're going to tab these differently. So we're going to highlight all of those and we're going to just move them in to the 1 mark so that they all come in slightly under here. Let's just check where we can put that. I'll leave it at 1. Just so it sits within this margin. All right. There's 78 needs to be going out. I'm going to do the same thing with this next group. I'm going to highlight them all and we're going to move them out to the 1. 79's good. 80's good. 81's good. 82, 83. Okay, just picked up another little formatting thing that we can do. So just bear with me while I find out where we need to go back to. Okay, we're going to go back to number 27. And we want to make sure that when we're quoting these Latin things, that they all sit uniformly tabbed in. So our tab here is at 1. I'm just going to scan down here. That one's good. That's at 1. This one down here is not. Okay, so we're just going to tab it in to 1. Good. Same thing here. Highlight this. Tab it in to 1. You can see what we're doing is we're making the document uniform in its formatting so they can't challenge it. Same here. Just highlight it, bring it into 1. That one's good. That one's good. That one's good. Yep. 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 Now, the reason that I've made these little errors, if we want to call that through, that need to be fixed, is to educate you as to how important these documents are and the structuring of them. Because if you don't get it right, it could bite you in the bum. Now look at this one. It's got here in capital, what is illegal? Well, it's actually not English. And if we leave that in there, that single phrase here of itself could have the whole document thrown out, because this is dog Latin. It's criminal and counterfeit, and its presence here can negate the whole document. So I need to go up to the format of the character and I need to take out the capitals. All right, now I'm going to show you that again in a different window so you can see what I've done. I'm going to go to the format and character, and it will bring up a window like this. So character, font, automatic, effects, capitals. Click on that without capitals. And it changes it down here, and it changes it there, and it's disappeared. All righty, so let's keep going back and double checking our document. It's all aligned, and that's now been corrected. Excellent. This one's in alignment up. These need to be changed. So going to move those along. Perfect. Those ones are good, looking good. Nah, wait a minute. These ones need to be moved. At 74. If you can get somebody else to go over the document for you, I offer that once you've done this process, you can send me the file, not as a PDF, as a file, and I will go through it and double check it. I am not going to be able to change family names, etc., because I don't know them, but I can check that everything else is right. It's looking good. Yep. Well, we'll pick that up straight away because it's not aligned correctly. And the same down here. Oh, missed that one. Now, what you can do is rather than do that is you can do it that way. All right, looking good. Let's just fix these ones. You're probably getting an idea of how much went into creating these documents for you. We're going to realign these ones. Putting them into here. Same thing here. Yeah. And we are done. All right. One more thing to do. We're going to select all, and we're going to come up here to the color font, and we're going to get it in a dark purple. Oh. And that should go through and change the whole document into this purple color. Just checking the pages again. Yes, yes. All right, so now we're done. You can print it out in color. Sign it here in purple. Get it witnessed before a JP. If you can't find a JP, you can get 3 other witnesses. So it's not a JP plus 3, it's a JP or 3 people to witness you autographing it. Okay, that's what they're witnessing, you autographing it, the soul. You can then put in the living man or woman in red ink afterwards because it's on behalf of the living being. And then you can put your fingerprint here as well. All right, once you've got it signed, sealed, delivered, you make as many copies as you need to send via registered mail to the recipients. If you want to add corporations in here, you can. Now, I've just picked up back at 19, and that should have been changed. Okay, that's fine. My spelling there is terrible, but yours will be fine. This is why it's often good to have somebody else go through and proofread it. Yeah, don't know what's going here. Oh. Right. So print it out. Then you go into the next phase, which is the registered mail delivery. And pretty much that's covered in, there's a cover letter for you to fill out in the how-to document. to all of the recipients that you want to send it to. You send it via registered mail. You send a copy. You can print copies out in black. That's fine for them. You keep the original. Never let anyone have access to the original. You keep it somewhere safe. Send them a copy in black. Make sure that you ask for a receipt card, acknowledgement that they've got it. You can also track it via Australia Post and keep that as proof of when it's been delivered. And thirdly, if you wish, you can personally hand a copy to any of these organisations. For instance, you can go down to the local police station, you can serve it on the officer behind the desk. Then I would recommend that you send an email to the police prosecution's email addresses, as many as you can find in that state or any other state, saying that it has been served on this officer at this station at the time, and you are giving them a copy of this. You can scan this and you can send them an email copy. Okay, well, that's it in a nutshell. It might seem like a lot. Take your time to go through it, go back, rewind, but all the moves in there are you to get this affidavit done. This becomes your safety net in the system. Okay, all the best with it. If you want to send me a copy to proofread, I'm happy to proofread stuff. If there's only minor changes, I'll make the changes for you, but it should be spot on. All the best, and may freedom come your way.